Hello, holes and poles. Get hard, get steady, get your butts ready for me, Lulu. Hi. So I normally babble for a little bit, so I'm gonna try to get down the nitty gritty. This is the masterclass edition of learning how to write stories. What we're gonna do is we're gonna try to complete a whole entire Cruel Computer story. And usually I do it on the fly, but I'm thinking of all the things beforehand. But today we're not going to do everything on the fly. Uh, what this is forcing shut of the third eye by being as creative as possible to shut off all creative processes so that you can have further and new creative processes. So if this was a class, I would make you watch 3 clips. One clip would be an intro, one clip would be the middle, and one would be an ending. And from those three things, you would have to write a story on all of them. So if you all somehow want to do that as part of it, ooh, I can see my screen in my glasses. If you'd all like to do that as part of homework, go for it. Anyways, uh, what we're going to do is we have our concepts, and we're going to try to blend in the concepts, and I'm going to try to teach you how to write a story without putting yourself into it as much. I want to strenuate that. Never, ever, 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 ever put yourself into your stories. It is ridiculous, stupid, and dumb. And the stories that you normally write will let people know about you anyways, so you need to keep yourself out of them as much as possible. Because it's like quantum mechanics, and the slit experiment. You just do the experiment, don't look at it. You just create. And if you wanted to say like something about the slit experiment and how it impacts your life, it's going to change it even more. But anyways, so what we're first going to do is we have the broad spectrum of the concept. The broad spectrum of the construct is called the assembly. So this is going to be a sci-fi. The concept of the assembly is there is within the Cruel Computer. This is my square. It's a terrible square. Within everything, there's blueprints. So when, say, like you're in a video game or you're in a store, there's always blueprints to create things. Somebody has to have a set structure, and when there's a baby born, the baby always I'm gonna pull that one back. A baby's usually born within some sort of parameters of a human being. You know, when you have a car, someone and the assembly line builds it to the same thing. Planets, stars, galaxies, they're all built based off a blueprint. But where are the blueprints? And within a computer game, there the similarities go on top of each other. I don't have a word currently for that. I'm on I'm on minimal brain capacity, but the similarities pair up, par up, whatever, and you now have a program with code, and you just basically tell it what to do, and it has a blueprint. So you click on a screen and you want to use the crop, it crops. It does what a blueprint does. It also makes blueprints because it does the border. So if in our world, in comparison to the 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 computer program that crops, or I click here and it does reset, there's somewhere within the computer program, built or not, the computer program itself, as if it was dark matter being where the blueprints are. So you type in something, numbers, dots, it creates something. But in the middle of all that is the schematics stored for it to run properly. And it's the blueprints not to make things, but it is the blueprints for order. This is where the concept of assembly, the story, is. So basically, if there's something that makes it so this program stays so that I can come to you in dots and pixels and numbers and colors, me in this reality, Lilu on the one true earth, am also following some sort of structure that always makes it so that I just don't go fuzzy for any reason or teleport or whatever magical would be fun. So the assembly is basically a place where there's just an infinite amount of U's and coordinates. I don't know, cars. Kind of like in the Matrix when they pull out they say they want weapons and then just like an infinite amount of weapons. That white room, it's kind of like the assembly room, a place where infinite amount of data, infinite amount of possibilities, and also it keeps everything in order. So we have to take that as our crown piece for the story, um, finding a way for that to be in there. From then on, we want three things. I think it might be four, but we want to pull in three things: a person, a another person, and then a storyline that involves them following some sort of pattern. I currently cannot remember any of it. I know some of it, but because I'm talking and I wanted to do this like it was a freestyle battle. So I'm trying to explain how to freestyle, write stories at the same time, because none of this is written down. Trying to freestyle it at the same time, explain how to write a story in my style so that it comes out fluidly. So we go back to the characters, and what you want to do is you want to have a character based off of other people. So our first character can be based off of other characters because, say, characters that are based off of people on TV are easier to base people off of because they have a longer running than people in books. So, say like Homer Simpson is one of them. Which you should base a person off of maybe two characters, at least three, to get a kind of structural concept of what you want for a character. So maybe the Devil, Homer Simpson, and I don't know, Rocky as your first character. That's not who I'm having my characters as. But with Rocky, you have a determination. He's in movies, but he's only in 5 movies. The Devil exists through time, so they have a monomythic proportion to their existence. Homer Simpson has a grander life expectancy in comparison to other people. Take for instance Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes has been existent over the years. As a character, is in books, but you kind of don't know his personality. You know what he does in books. Like if you wanted to write a character based off Sherlock Holmes, you just kind of it's like Batman, which Batman was based off of Sherlock Holmes. It's just a character who solves crimes and he's really smart. Like that's not really a character, and you can't really say from there what he's going to do. Like a character like Homer Simpson. There's certain things that Homer Simpson you can ask someone or ask yourself, and you'll know that Homer isn't going to do them. join a gym, and then open up a quinoa and broccoli store. I'm already giggling because that'd be a really cool Simpsons episode. Instead of them making like, standard Simpson episodes where they're like, let's do the goofiest thing. Like they've already set up their characters so much that they would do the opposite. Let's change our characters or try to make them change in order to bring in some comedy. That's always a great way to bring in comedy, to do the opposite. But we fairly well know that Homer is not going to go to the gym and then open up a quinoa and broccoli store. Different colors of broccoli, I don't fucking know. But right off the bat, people know like Homer Simpson isn't going to do that. What else? What is something that Homer open up which I think would be horrible, opening up like a nursing home slash taking care of children, nursing slash what is it called when you take care of children in the little nursing? Obviously, I don't take care of kids. Maybe somebody knows. Nursery, kindergarten, nursery, preschool, and nursery, preschool. Homer Simpson opens that because he's just so into kids all of a sudden. Doesn't seem like something that Homer would do. Like other things, deciding to build a death ray and take over the world. Right off the bat, Homer Simpson wouldn't do that. So when building your character, you want to base it off of a couple of people. For the assembly, I feel like it was a different name. It's not assembly. Assemblage? I don't know. I'll change it later. We're just going to call it assembly for currently. I feel like it was called something else, but I forgot. So this is what happens when you're freestyling. Freestyle writing. So we have this sci-fi part where there is an area that everything is created, and it is also the blueprints area where everything exists. And what you now want to do is maybe get some ideas for pictures, get ideas for things, and I'm burping. You want to draw them or get pictures or in some way create them. And because I don't have time to do that right now, I guess I'll have to throw out some ideas. I just keep seeing this long black room with blue and like bodies and then fractals. And from here, like this is the start. This is where I see the assembly. This is like the main part of the story. And I want to tie in these people. I want to bring in the characters, and I also want to develop the characters, but it's better to think of all the things that I want in the story now and how I want to pull them in, just like writing a joke. Say the joke is like somebody has a knife and they're trying to unscrew a screw and then they stab their hand. Like you could just put that in the story, but you want to build that into the story. You want them to be the beginning of the story. They're talking to someone and they're asking for a screwdriver. Halfway through, you want them to get a screwdriver and then lose it, and then someone says something about like, did you know you could use a knife as a screwdriver? And then later on in the story, they stab their hand trying to use a knife. Like you want it to be drawn out as long as possible because you have the ability to do that and also keep that going within the story. A running joke. Also, a lot of people put in secret things like that, like the running joke, and I do a lot of those. I have a lot of things and I generally start working on the secrets beforehand. But sometimes I feel that a lot of people don't do that. I feel like a lot of people just kind of sit down and they write the story, and then they're like, let's try to add something more. And instead of always having something up their sleeve, instead they're just grabbing for more things, which I don't do, because you feel it in the story, and it's kind of weird. I think I think Harry Potter is not one of those things. I feel like when she writes, she knows. I'm just gonna say Rawlings. When Rawlings writes, they know what they're doing, and there's always little hidden things. My- That's probably gonna mess with my thing. But like the Sorcerer's Stone, there was always those little clues, and all that stuff was there, and you could see all the clues, and it was really obvious about what was going on. But until the end, maybe you didn't suspect it. I didn't. I wasn't paying attention. And other people just kind of like write things, and you're like, this didn't make sense. And now the killer's here, or the person, or whatever the story is, and you're like, oh, all of these things pointing to it, I guess, makes sense. But then you realize it could have been anybody because all of the things were just vague. So now we have characters to create. There are certain things that I want in the story, and I want to call it the assemblage now. The assemblage, always remember you're allowed to change stuff constantly. For the assemblage, I wanted a person, I think, who was disconnected. I wanted a person who lives in the city, and they're like agoraphobic. But they have a job, they interact with people, they they really eat a certain way, and behave a certain way. And the other character, I wanted them to live in the country, and they are the opposite. They go out a lot. They want to see everything, do everything. And I'm basing this off of my personality and other people's personalities, and an allegory and concept of people who get jobs in the city tend to act like people who live in the country. And for some reason, they haven't realized it yet. And that's what I want the story to be about. There's this is so hard to do. I feel like there's a third character, but I can't think about that right now because I'm writing it all but backwards. I don't know how they get to the assemblage. And that's the point of the writing. I haven't hashed it all out, and I'm gonna try to do it in 30 minutes. And I'm at 19 minutes. So the character that works in the city is hardworking. They've avoided every single person. They've kept their mouth shut. They're a yes person. I'm basing it off of, is it Renketsu? Whatever that little fox or ferret that screams death metal in that cartoon. I like that character. And then even Mousier, like the most shut-ins of shut-ins. Like they don't, and I don't want them to have a dramatic change like in other movies where people become like a different person. They're like, oh, I'm free and I'm gonna carry a gun. No, this person's never gonna change. They are shut in and they're afraid. They just have to learn their place. Is the point of the story. They they don't get to live in the city. They get to be a person who finds out where they belong, and living in a country is what the end result is. And the person who doesn't live in the city is the person who eventually, gets to live in the city. Um, they have to find themselves serendipitously, and they can't do it by one day turning down the wrong side of the road, and then they both like go to a gas station and bump into each other, because that's bullshit. As a story writer, and as someone who writes or have read stories, that's not how life works. It all has to apply to life, and it all has to be the best representation. And if not, write other things, and you're not learning anything from me. But I mean, I am crazy. I think for a second, I thought if people gave me free things, or they gave me stuff, and if somehow something was incorporated with them, like a string or something they didn't notice, I would free them from their eternal bonds of whatever was crushing them. I don't fucking know. I have really bad paranoia. Anyways, oh my god. Anyways, really, really bad paranoia. I don't trust people. And that might be a product of my character. How about I put my extreme paranoia? That would be the best. Extreme, terrible paranoia into my character. That they're. Oh, okay. What should I put my paranoia into? My paranoia into the closeted character, or the good one? Okay. I'm going to give the paranoia to the, um, the closeted hard worker. So they go out and they constantly buy things, and they believe in signs, and they get money, and depending on how much change they get, they will sit down and then figure out the numbers, and the numbers of the change they will write down and obsess about all day. The other character, and again, I was saying that like they can't serendipitously run into each other. The other character has to find a way to the city. Um, so like in any other story, like again, I was saying about the road going down the wrong way. It it has to be a bunch of things that leads these two characters together. My phone's gonna die, so this might be half the video. There might be a part two. So the characters can't just like go to a festival and meet each other. And if they do meet each other, it has to be over the course of story, constantly meeting over and over again until they feel comfortable with each other. That's the only way. The bonds of the story and how it exists in life is that's how it works, and that's how it's written. And by following those guidelines, it's just the best way to go about it, and it's just for really good story writing and strong writing. Otherwise, it's just like, oh, and then someone from the future goes back in time and gives them a gun. It's just really bad story writing. Uh, and the big point is that you want to work on these characters more than the concept of your story. You want the concept of the assembly to be there in the back of your mouth, that taste that you're thinking about, like how can I incorporate this new cheese? And it's just like I got these ideas of bread, and hot mustard, but this new cheese, this ghost pepper cheese, how am I bringing this into the mix? You know the flavor, you know what you want. You want people to fucking get it to the face. But you got to work on the the basis, and you need to work on that the most. So the second character, I mean, you could do something like win a prize, win a raffle, but I think somehow bringing them together and maybe a computer program write some sort of code. Oh, I know. So here we go. This, and I've had this concept of a computer program that, well, it's a simulation, and they're putting people in the simulation, and in order for them to not find out it's a simulation every once in a while, it has to run the people through a code, like a cheat code. It has to trick them into doing the cheat code. And for some people it works, and other people it doesn't. So for some people, the computer runs a a trap simulation. So easiest bar none was a computer game where people tried to play the game, and it was like simple muscle movements, and whatever it was, the computer had written this code is like 8 hours long, and basically moving up, left, right, down, all of this stuff, the computer was doing it. So as you're playing this game, it is slowly locking you into the concept of the simulation. So say like it was Mario Brothers, which is a really fucking hard game, but this game's easier than Mario Brothers. It's just jump, 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 like a Flappy Birds or some shit. And it's just getting a person to just look up and down, or like their body movements, the same stimulation. And maybe for each person it's different. There's like a different code to get them to they themselves be locked into the concept of the simulation and not knowing that it's real. And by playing a video game, it locks them in the simulation. For other people, it might be like bigger. What's bigger? Like the internet. Some people, it might be like interacting with people, like a bunch of people. Like the simulation itself is making people like pick up an Amazon order. So that person has to walk up a street and go left, and then the computer sends someone on an Uber across at a certain time, like precisely knowing how many steps, how long they normally take, and making them interact so they're bumping into each other, and then they're slowly taking other paths so that this person cannot walk the way they do, and then it's slowly just the same way that a person would take advantage of you by slowly asking for more and more. The computer program itself slowly manipulates you into not doing what you normally do and trapping you within its a simulation. And even further than this is you living a whole entire year the way it wants you to, and then trapping you and other people years and years. I know, it's a lot to think about. And the only way to break out of the simulation is to just do whatever you want. And it's just, again, an allegory for whatever. So, and it will be an allegory on how people, again, need to break out of their molds. Their molds. this is the end of part one of writing a story. Late.